really good work. It's somebody that you can truly trust.
Totally. Yeah, we've been very happy. She's been just great with my dad.
Yeah. She did the same thing. She's gotten and taken care of all my mom's stuff too. So yeah. And I think she just came into our office. I was out of town, so I didn't get to see that. But yeah, she's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
Small
glad you,
world.
yeah. Who's hosting today?
That would be me. Sorry. Just got off
Oh,
the phone.
Stacy. Sorry. Jakey Poo.
Thanks, Rusty.
I love it. Much love,
So many
friend.
things you could call him. I could bring a list.
How do I transfer to the Lee Summit office?
I was gonna say, I'm just so glad my mom isn't on the call, because who know, like, can't we all say that? Like, we all have nicknames and pet names from mom, and yeah, I know I got names for my kids, and yeah.
I think I'll bring his baby photo album in.
No,
Just so we can.
we like Jake. We want him to stick around.
He was so cute.
He is so sweet too, Jakey Poo.
Look at my kids and imagine it with a 90s photo.
There you go.
Like that.
That's no lie. That's no lie.
Uh-oh. Who's that?
Joanna.
Sounds like a submarine.
Is that me?
Well, it's done, so.
I don't know. I'm hearing a big echo. Is anybody else hearing an echo?
Yeah, when you talk, it is.
Yeah. Why don't you bop on? You don't have a phone on, do you?
Yes, she does. You're on here 2 different places.
No, I didn't get on through my.
Do you
phone.
see that you have your picture, and then there's also your name in black?
Okay, hold on a second.
I can remove the other one.
Yeah, do that, please.
Let's see. I don't want to report you to anything though.
There we go. There we go.
Okay.
That's better. Okay. I was on 2 different things on the computer because I tried to get on and it said there was some AI thing and it was different than I normally do. So I don't know what's going on.
It wasn't you. I'm not sure what that was, but I got it too. I think Trisha, you got it. Maybe.
Yeah.
So hopefully everybody else finds us here.
Yeah. It's a new thing with AI on Zoom because I've never seen that before, but.
What did it say?
Mine just wouldn't connect. My Zoom wouldn't connect. I had to go through through your browser. It would not load the Zoom at all. It just would do nothing.
And it gave you 3 different options. And I'm like, I just want to connect to the meeting. That's all I want to do. So it was weird.
Well,
AI is taking over.
Glad you made it. We're glad you made it.
Awesome. Well, before we get going, does anybody have anything that they wanted to bring up? Anything they wanted to talk about? Any questions? Did anybody go to the wealth building thing yesterday?
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Airbnb stuff. Wednesday afternoons are tough for me. I think I've hit about half of them.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go specifically for that topic, but my day had overrun us all day. So,
well, we did record that one.
Oh,
we
good.
We don't normally record those because we want people to come and be in person. But because we did have to move the dates around a little bit, and I know that messed with some people's schedule, we went ahead and recorded that one. And it will be posted to our YouTube page. And when I get that link, I can share that and push that out.
Well, I'll be very excited for the next one as well. So. And are we supposed to sign up for, I think I seen something about Lonnie had sent something out about if you're not on, so do we have a specific page for that, like a Facebook page or something?
Yeah.
Okay. And then do we need to pay to be on that or no?
Yeah, pay me.
Sure, I like that. Yes, pay us to be on that. Monthly subscription, $100 a month.
Hey, everything else is, why not that?
I'll put the link in the chat box.
Fabulous, thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to hit a couple of the bullet points out of that, obviously we had 22 people there, but Airbnb or short-term rentals is wild, wild west. There's a lot of unique things going on, as municipalities are changing their rules, which for the most part is making it more difficult to operate them. Anything that has an HOA has the ability to all but shut them down. So it's an interesting time in that arena, yet the demand's at an all-time high. The largest hotel in the world, which is Marriott, I'm going to say that I'm sure I have the number wrong, but let's just say it was 1 billion, people stayed in their rooms last year. It's 22 times that for Airbnb alone. So it's massive. In other countries where there's less restriction, it's growing really, really fast. But a couple of the three big bullet points, Jake, that I'm sorry you missed it because there was a lot of good stuff there. But some things to think about in that arena. The first one is, when you talk about short-term rentals, if operated properly, they on average are only going to have about a 60 to 70% occupancy rate. But because your nightly rate is high enough, you actually, on average, according to Greg and everything I've read, you have the ability to get a net return that's 50 to even 100% higher than our typical 1-year leases, 2-year leases. Again, managed properly and so on and so forth. And that's consistent with some of the things I've seen as we got into our first one in different areas. Greg does really well with ones that are not in what I might consider the sexy areas: Grandview, Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri, Raytown, those kind of areas, Overland Park. It's like people though don't just use them for bachelorette parties and birthdays and stuff like that. What about ball teams coming in for tournaments? What about church groups coming to Kansas City for meetings? All of these things. Hotels are so expensive now. I mean, good luck finding a hotel less than $200 a night. I mean, it's becoming very difficult, especially anywhere near Overland Park or downtown Kansas City and that sort of thing. But so there's no reason to even consider going down this path unless you feel like you can get a better return. And that's certainly possible if run right. Two of the factors to keep in mind also is one, if you're going down this path, typically you or your investors buying a home to convert it into a short-term rental. There's the expense of acquiring the property, then there's the expense of making the property ready. In other words, most of them are going to need fully furnished and so on and so forth. So you have to have kind of a nest egg of money to have it ready. So basically, and you're talking about I know for ours down south, down in Arizona, we had to look at everything. Fortunately, we bought from a lady that was running one. So 80% was already there, and then we just supplemented. But silverware and blenders and coffee makers, and it just goes on and on and on. So there's this additional expense that you don't have with with a normal rental, because obviously those people are bringing their furniture and their things, right? The second thing that I think I maybe even misjudged a little is the wear and tear on these properties. When I have a tenant stay in it for a year, 2 years, 5 years, the good is they're stable and they're there, but the longer they're there, they tend to kind of dig in and make it their home, and they're living in that sucker every single day, right? The Airbnb is going to have anywhere from a 50 to 75% occupancy rate. Therefore, you're not having someone in there 24/7. Greg was talking about a lot of his people are construction guys coming to Kansas City for jobs. They're working all day. They're using the unit basically as a place to sleep, to eat and sleep. So you can imagine the wear and tear on that versus a family of 5 living in that property full time. So there's a huge, huge disparity on what should be the wear and tear on the units. In addition to that, is every time a tenant leaves, it's being professionally cleaned. So it's constantly being monitored for maintenance and things like that. So those were two just nuggets that stood out to me. There were many, many more. It's an interesting arena. It's not for everybody. I think it has possibilities. The one thing that I would suggest that you Google and check into this is, and especially someone like Ruslan who's getting her feet wet in this arena, is there's what's called an Airbnb arbitrage. And that's simply where, myself or Nathan goes in and he sees a nice house in Overland Park that people want to rent the house, and for $3,500 a month. And Nate's like, hey, this is a great house. I'd like to rent it to you. My credit's impeccable, blah, 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 blah. But here's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be operating an Airbnb at a very high level in your $500,000 house or $400,000 house. And at first, the landlord might not like that, but if it's explained properly, they may very much like that. They're not going to have a family of 5 living there, and so on and so forth. Nathan's guaranteeing the rent. So Nathan has to stroke that check no matter whether the Airbnb is crushing it or struggling. So it's Airbnb or short-term rental arbitrage. New term to me. I've heard of it in California, but I hadn't heard anybody doing it here locally. But it does sound like some people are putting their toe in the water on that. Does anybody have any questions on any of that stuff?
So Lonnie, I have a question. So you're saying that Nathan is renting a house in Overland Park, and then he's turning around and he's already cleared it with the landlord, that he's turning around and subleasing it or whatever as a Airbnb?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, again, I'm just giving you an example. Nathan, as far as I know, isn't doing that, but I was using him as an example.
That's an example.
You know,
okay.
He's got good credentials. A landlord would love to have him assigned on a lease, but in that lease, he would need to be able to explain to them how he's going to be using their property. So you got to get the blessing of the landlord. You have to be sure it's not in an area that would prohibit that with HOA and different things like that. But I see some possibilities. I know when we got our Airbnb in Scottsdale, you know, we simply didn't even look in areas with HOAs, the Greyhawks and those kind of areas, which are really cool. But if you're running one there, the HOAs it's just a matter of time before they eliminate them. So we simply went to the areas where the houses were built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that don't have HOAs, and there's no restrictions. So you're just dealing with whatever the municipality is going to be throwing at you at any given time.
It's a big deal in what Lonnie calls the sexy areas. A lot of people take that opportunity for, especially like for that World Cup that's coming, and they know that that's coming. So they're going to rent that with a 1 to 2 year lease, knowing that that's coming, and they're capitalizing like crazy, minus the furniture expense. But, you know, it's a great idea. Big risk, but great idea.
Yeah. It's just a cool facet. Something we don't, you know, in our area, we don't talk about very much. We're not exposed to it. I know some of you guys have actually rented Airbnbs. You've done Airbnbs or VRBOs. And so we know it from that standpoint, but not from the true owner or the operator of the Airbnb. Greg also made a great point. He goes, you know, depending on the market, you're typically going to pay about a 20% to 25% fee for management. But management involves a lot with those things. You have to be accessible, readily available. It is a lot of work. And I think he's managing 40 or 50 now, of which I think 5 or 10 are his. But still, the number of texts that come in from the people, no matter how many instructions you give them, here they come. They're checking in now. How do I get the cable on? How do I, you know, where in fact, you've already told them 10 times how that works. So it's not for everybody. And to me, it has a concierge service component. And if you're not going to be good at that, you are not going to be good running your own Airbnb. It's just a matter of time before you get bad ratings, which kind of makes it very difficult to get top dollar and get bookings, and it can kind of snowball on you really, really quickly. So my gut feeling is looking at these things, if I can't pay a professional operator, a high-end operator, it's not anything I personally would do.
So was that 25% fee? Did that include like the cleaning and things like that, or is that like, say you make $1,000 for somebody staying there for a week? How much do you clear?
Cleanings are pass-throughs typically, is how Greg explained. Most things like that are just pass-throughs. When you talk about the fees for Airbnb or VRBO, all those are kind of built in and baked in. You know, but now you have to pay the utilities. That's another thing that's different about a long-term rental versus short. Those utilities are in your name. You know, that's your $500 a month electric, water, cable, you know, and you got to have all that stuff. You got to have a tech friendly house and things like that. So it's just a different model. And the more I look into it, it has some positives, it has some negatives, and it's not for everybody, but I think it's worthy of consideration. And there's the biggest thing that I think we have to worry about is, are we doing this in an area where the municipality is going to make it difficult to operate? Many of these aren't operated very well. You know, they're party houses. People rent them for one night, tear them up. The neighbors hate the noise, all of those kind of things. I know mine in Scottsdale, after 10 o'clock, there is no noise. And we make it really clear. Do not rent this if you cannot adhere to that rule. So that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I send out a list of rules before I even accept their request on my Airbnb. Make for sure that they understand this is what my expectation is. And same thing you said, if you can't adhere to it, then we're not a good fit.
Yeah.
Are you guys doing mainly like single family for those? Or are you guys doing duplexes? Or we stayed in a duplex Airbnb in Florida. It was really nice. I never even really
Yeah.
thought about using those.
Yeah, duplexes, townhomes, again, as long as you don't have any kind of restrictions or the potential for the restrictions to pop up. Condos, again, where the restrictions aren't there. I know, when this got hot 5, 6 years ago, I've always wanted to have a cool loft downtown Kansas City. And I was like, I'm going to get one of those badass ones, with 30-foot ceilings. It's going to be awesome. And, immediately all of those cool buildings started passing regulation, 30-day minimum rentals and stuff, which eliminated the short-term rental market.
Is it just because people are partying in them, or why does everybody not want the short term rentals as far as like the condos and things?
I mean, there's a lot of people that don't want long-term rentals next door. So, they get a nerve when they see a for rent sign, right? You can imagine if a new family's checking in every 2, 3, 4 days, and packing and unpacking. And, it has a little bit of negative connotation out there, honestly. And it's well-deserved in many cases. Lots of stories of people renting them and throwing massive parties, and social media, putting it out there on social media that there's a get together. Next thing you know, there's 200 people in a yard, that kind of stuff.
Very cool. Did anybody else have anything else? Questions? Anything like that? Anything that's unique or weird that's going on?
I have that property in Lone Jack, that's on the acreage, about 5 acres. I mean, to me, it checks all the boxes for most buyers. 4 bedroom, walkout basement, true ranch. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful property, huge outbuilding. It's just not moving. Uh, it is in Lone Jack, Lee Summit School, or Lee Summit address, Lone Jack Schools. Are you guys so we were at 725. I was just curious, at that level on pricing, we're just not getting a lot of foot traffic. Just curious what you guys think about the market, maybe specifically in that area, or I don't know what else to do on that. Are you guys having any problems moving like that price range?
How many days has it been on the market?
Almost 30, I think.
I
We've
can
had
send that to one of my buyers
5.
who's looking for something like that.
We've got 5. We've had 5 showings. Every feedback has been great, but one. And that was because when she went out of town, the air conditioner did not, like reset on those nests to go back up. So they walked in and it was a little warm. And you guys know if air's not moving, like things smell a little different, right? But yeah, I'm kind of I've not had this happen on a house that would really check a lot of boxes, other than maybe people just don't want to send their kids to Lone Jack schools. I don't know.
I would do a couple things. I would look specifically with that combination, especially Lone Jack schools. I think that's a game changer. And I don't know anything about Lone Jack, but I know what the perception is for like Lee Summit schools.
Right.
Is maybe just look and see his average days on market, especially above 500K on houses, small acreages. Is it longer with that component? My guess is it is.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And I will say this, and we've talked about it at team meeting. The new norm is these properties, for the most part, are going to take longer to sell, period. The fact that you've averaged more than one a week, actually, that's to me is about what I would expect. If I could get one a week, it's the first person that's seriously looking for what you have in your location. You probably got them, assuming it shows well and it's priced right. But 30 days should not be any pressure from any seller ever. I know they still look at it differently, but if we're sharing the data, if we're letting them know this is running exactly as we talked about, versus, I'm not sure why we're not getting more traffic. Traffic is overrated. If it's not quality, people truly looking for a house in buyer mode, how good is it? So what if I got 2 more showings a week, but they were knuckleheads not in buyer mode? That's a waste of time. It's a waste of the seller's time. So we got to completely, even on our $300,000 houses now, I'm telling people 60 to 90 days is what I think it'll take to sell. If it happens faster, it's good fortune, or because you have such a lovely home. Okay. That just took me completely out of the pressure zone of time. Okay. Now sometimes I have to remind them of that comment, but I'm buying huge windows for time right now and stuff. And it will make your life easier, I promise you. Now, sellers, again, you can tell them that and they don't listen. We have to coach them all over again. But the market is so, it's a seller's market, but just barely. The average days on market is trending higher slowly. Prices have leveled off, not going down, but have leveled off. We're seeing them go down in many major markets. Maybe we will see a little pullback at some point here if these rates don't move lower. So this is just a new environment, and it's not a bad environment. It's just not as frothy as it's been. And we may not see frothy as it's been again until the eventual move by the Fed to really lower rates, to get in there and move the mortgage rates considerably.
Yeah, did you tell Todd to lower them? We keep telling him to, but he's stubborn, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, what about like a group open house with like there's certain houses that are in neighborhoods where nothing is selling, or say you're competing against new builds or things like that. Has anybody like collab with like other agents from other offices to do like a large open house for the neighborhood with say 5 or 6 different houses?
I've never thought about that.
I tried that in Overland Park where I had my villa because there were 3 on the same street. Literally, I was on the market first and they priced theirs the same price as mine. And so I tried to do that with both of the other agents, and both of them were like, we're not doing open houses. And I was like, okay. So they weren't even offering that to their clients. So they didn't bite, but I really did try. And I tried to sell the point of, all of us marketing together, how many people we could bring through for our clients, but they just all said they were not doing open houses.
So did you sell first?
I did.
So Jake's
I closed Monday, so we'll see.
Good job.
I asked Jake about this because I had my listing in Olathe for 660 it's been 33 days, I think 34 days. And there's several others, or about 4 or 5 others that are also kind of sitting in that same neighborhood, same price range, some a little higher. So I reached out to the other agents. I think there's about 5 of us that are going to get together next week for coffee and talk about doing that. That's what I was asking Jake, if anyone had done anything like that. They're all different brokerages, companies. But everybody, actually the first person reached out to me and just asked me if I'd had any activity. And I've only had 3 showings. They were at the beginning and we'd gone from 675 to 660. But nothing, they're not even getting any showings. But I mean, to Lonnie's point, it doesn't do any good if they're not actually buyers. And they tried a listing, or they tried like an agent, I can't remember what that's called, where the agents
broker open.
Yeah, and they didn't. A couple of them were like, we don't want to do that again because it didn't really yield anything. So we were thinking, kind of what we're going to talk about next week is that collective marketing, like putting it out there, kind of having maybe our own sort of, I call it like mini parade of homes, like where we're. So I don't know if anybody has any creative ideas on the best way to do that. Is it just that we create collateral that shows all those houses and then we all push it out, or because I want to sell my house, not their house, but
I mean, it's kind of like how why the car dealerships are all right next to each other. You go to one and then you'll hop over to the other one and so on.
Or just tips on good open houses. I mean, I've read all this stuff and I've had a couple, but I'm certainly obviously not an expert on good open houses either.
Well, I thought about doing a broker open on my house on Apollosa, but but then my mind says, if somebody has a house, if somebody has a client that's looking, they're probably gonna book a showing. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I don't know if it's just a big waste to have a bunch of agents come, because I'm sure if they had a client that was looking in the area, looking for that kind of house, they probably would have already showed them. So I don't even know what to think about the broker open. Is that a waste? Is that a waste of time?
They didn't want, the people I'm working with don't want to do that again. They just want to do regular. And I don't even know, again, if it's going to yield anything as much as maybe it's going to satisfy our clients too, that we're working it. But Yeah, I
I
don't
think-
know. It's
I
stuff
think
that
we're
activities-
open.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
most of these activities we're doing because we're under the pressure of our seller. All we're doing is trying to pacify them. Broker opens, where you're getting a title company to sponsor, a lender, and all that. We quit doing those years ago, and I still see them pop up, and that's fine. If it makes the seller happy and keeps you engaged with them, I see some minimal value there.
Yeah.
If you can get some agents through that really know the market and get accurate feedback from them, like if your kind of gut feeling is, I got a house that's a little dated, maybe a little overpriced, and they'll come through and truly share that it can have value. But what we found is no matter how we market it, no matter how cool the food was and the drawings and all that, we didn't get very much participation. And the people that showed up weren't the agents representing buyers because they're out busy selling houses and enjoying their life. It was the people that didn't have anything to do that were going through the house, giving you their opinion. Oh, this thing's priced right, honey. Well, this agent doesn't even know the market. So how did that help me? How did that help the seller?
Yeah.
So
we're definitely not marketing agents for this. We just want to do like regular open houses, but just having, I don't know, I guess we're just thinking maybe the more people pushing it out, the better maybe, or more energy in the neighborhood, signage, or I don't even know really where to start. It was my idea, but now I don't know what to do with it. I'm like, hey, let's all meet and talk this out. And I'm like, okay, I better figure out what I'm doing then.
I can't remember, Stacy, where are you at days on market wise? You're
33, 34.
You're within the neighborhood average, or you're outside of that now?
You know what's weird is there were 3 houses that are pending that were like 3 to 5 days on market, sold immediately. They're either selling in the first week or they're sitting like I am. And there were one that's been on there 15, one that's been on there 60, one that's been like 40, then me at 33. But there's this huge disparity between, I was telling Lonnie the other day, the only thing I can see is the ones that sold right away had white kitchens. All of us sitting on the market have wood. Literally the only
Interesting observation.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's just a sense of dated, because we're competing with some new builds as well. And so I'm trying to get my client / cousin to think about painting her kitchen, but she's very resistant to that. She insisted, after talking to my aunt and uncle, her parents, none of whom were realtors, they want to offer like a $10,000, not change the price, but offer $10,000. How did I say that, Jake? Or how are we going to write that out? Yeah, like a allowance at the end if they want to update or something. But I just, again, my gut says they look at the pictures, they see the kitchen, or they come in and it just looks dated. They want, even if the trend is trending back, it's trending, I was talking with somebody, it's trending back towards new stain. Old stain still looks like old stain. There's a new bent on it, but it looks different than 15-year-old stained cabinets. And we have a guy that can do it super cheap. She has white trim. All we need to do is just paint the cabinets, for $5,000-$6,000. And to me, that's worth it. But being so new, I'm afraid to push too much on that in case I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, Stacy, where's your listing?
Olathe, Stonebridge Trails, South Olathe.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, Stacy. I really do. I had a very similar situation in Independence. And thankfully, my buyers were like, hey, we need to modernize, don't we? Yup, you sure do. And they modernized, and we did a price improvement, and then they popped right away. And the houses, there's still 3 houses in the neighborhood that are sitting that were priced competitively, but it's exactly what you said. Like, even though there's some stuff that they're pretty close to on trend with, old stain just looks old. Like it's even if it's just a shade or 2 off, it makes a big difference. I've heard the word tired a lot. Like you walk into a house and it's nice. Like it's 30 years old decor style. You can tell they took immaculate care of it, but yet when you walk in, it just feels tired. It doesn't feel fresh and exciting. It's just like almost oppressive a little bit. Like I'm going to have to do something here. So I love the $10,000 idea. I still think that going ahead and addressing it would be even better because a lot of people have it's tough for them to visualize
I'm not
how
visualize.
this
She
would
can't
look.
even visualize, and it's her kitchen.
Right. 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 It's tough. It's tough when you walk in and it's done and it's ready to go. I think you got a lot better shot at it, especially if they're willing to invest $10,000 towards it and you've got a contractor that could do that and freshen that up a bit. It's amazing how those tiny little things that don't seem like they would be a deal breaker, they oftentimes are. And freshening that up may be the thing. As long as you're priced competitively. I haven't looked at it, Stacy. I'm so sorry. I'll jump on and I'll look at the price of it. But if you're priced right, remember, pricing just ahead of the market is way better than pricing right at the market. So even if you're right in the zone, you might be better to be, $10,000 or $15,000 under the zone, so that you outshine those other 2 or 3 houses that are in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah, I'd love for you to take a look because I feel like we're pretty competitive. Jake and I have looked at it a few times. And I could be wrong about the kitchens. All I know is the ones that sold in a week had white. The ones that are sitting they're almost identical otherwise, not floor plan and stuff, but just sort of look and feel of things. So just the decorator in me is like,
Yeah,
if that's what your gut's telling you, it's probably right.
And when they're buying something that nice, they say, okay, I need to update the kitchen. That's probably 40 grand. Probably what they're thinking in their head as a buyer.
Yeah.
Typically what my people think whenever they're like, oh, we need to paint the cabinets, that's 40 grand. Well, it's probably more like 4.
Right.
On TV, yeah, it's 40.
Do we have anybody? I know we had that one, oh gosh, who is it? That came in just recently and said, that they do kitchen upgrades and all the things. And he was like, guess how much it costs? And I was like 25, 30,000. He's like, no, it's like 5 or 6,000. Do we have anybody else? Cause they don't do like proceeds at closing, right? And like Trisha is going to kill me. I love you. My client's name's Teresa too. Anthony is like he's holding out proceeds right till closing too to collect for my client's property. So these people don't have money to invest, right? So I'm out of pocket on my property that I am helping her with, as well because I'm trying to help get this sold and I know the house is going to sell, but we need to find more people that like hold the money until we can close. Does anyone in this office have somebody that could do a nice fresh touch up on this kitchen that would hold the monies until we close?
I was speaking with that, was it Homestretch? Is that the one you were talking about, the Andrew that came into the office?
Yes.
I actually had them come out to my house and take a look, doing some updates. And he seemed very fair priced, as we all know from that meeting.
Yes.
Also, I do believe at that meeting, he said that they will hold the money until closing.
Oh,
I didn't talk to him about that, but I do. Go ahead.
Yeah, at a 15% fee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, which, I mean, if you need it, right? It is what it is. It's like equal to like working with people with, the hard money lending. So, but I know there's other people out there. I mean, we've got the floor guy helping us out too. We're pulling at everybody to get help to get this house to move. So I think that's the one thing. And Stacy, I think you're 100% correct. And I've been saying that from the get-go on that kitchen. It's just outdated. I mean, you got to have either meat on the bone to sell these things, or you got to put work into it after 25 years of living there to get it fresh and bright and shiny. And that's what gets people in the door, right? Not drab and dreary. So, if anyone thinks of that, please text me. If somebody that's willing to do that, that would be awesome. Oh, thank you.
I know all the super cheap guys that you have to kind of pay in cash. Usually if you buy materials first, sometimes they can get you, if you buy the materials, they can do it for you at closing, but usually their issue is they don't have the money to buy the material for like the super cheap guys. Speaking of that, people not being able to afford stuff, I saw a stat that said that baby boomers are now the primary buyers instead of millennials and Gen Z, just because of the affordability of everything. So I don't market a whole lot to baby boomers, but I guess I probably should. Is that kind of what you guys are seeing as far as like your clientele, or what's your clientele looking like right now?
I work with a lot of baby boomers. I think I'm a baby boomer, but I'm not sure. I don't know what the age is. 50s, 60s. Is that baby boomer?
It's like
Is that
60
baby
and older.
older?
Yeah.
60 and older. Yeah, I have a lot of those people that are actually, believe it or not, they're upsizing. They're not downsizing. And it's like they're selling their house with all stairs, and then they're buying this, $600,000 house. I'm like, wow, in their 60s. So I don't know. That's what I'm coming across. They have the equity from their house, and they're kind of getting their dream house. So, oh no.
The yesterday at the Kent came in from Edward Jones. He said there was a what did he say? It was the inheritance, like it's like the first generation of inheriting generational wealth. He said that's going to start popping up as well.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys. My mom says she doesn't want to leave me an inheritance, but apparently it's starting to come along for a lot of other people. So that may have something to do with it as well. But
way to call out your mom, Jake.
I know. No,
No apologies here. He's got his own dang money.
No, my back when I did financial advising, my mentor there said his dad said, "I want my last check to bounce." He said, "I want to spend all of it. Very last one I write, I want it to bounce." So, but no, I just thought that was interesting because I mean, I never really thought about the majority of people buying houses right now are in their 60s and 70s. It just seemed kind of odd. Those people, but yeah.
Well, and if they're not upsizing, they're downsizing.
Right.
So they're getting rid of their big house and buying, and maintenance provided, whatever, so there's a lot of that too. But you can keep working with the young people. I'll work with, I'll work with the older ones.
With a hand sign.
I could relate to them.
And not a lot of dot loops going on there. But no, I'm curious if it's just because if they're actually buying more, or it's just because of younger people are not able to buy at all. Just that has declined so much. I'm not sure on that. But I saw that stat this morning. I thought that was cool.
My clients, I had one set of clients, they moved out of state to be with family because their whole family moved out of state. So that's why they sold, and they had owned their farm 46 years. And then another family that I helped, they moved to be in Raymore closer to family, and they're in the baby boomer and up. So I don't know. I was kind of surprised that they wanted to buy. I thought I would just be selling. And then they're like, no, we might as well buy. And then the kids can use it as a rental. And I was like, good thinking. Let's do this. So, but yeah, it's kind of interesting that, yeah, they're in their 70s and we're at the closing table. I'm like, here we go. So, but yeah, my recommendation to help that age group is I always go to their house and help them sign all their documents, and then helping with processing, taking everything off the walls, and helping them pack. And then I paid for a cleaning service for one of those to come in after they moved, so that it would be a little less stress. So those are just some things that I have picked up that relieves a lot of stress on them.
Yeah.
What do you got, David? You had a question about some buyers?
And yeah, so I looks like I'm going to be picking up a client who was supposed to close on Monday. He wanted to be an unrepresented buyer, and he went to a walkthrough right before closing, and it was on Monday when we had all that rain, and there was literally water shooting out the chimney inside the house. And so he's working on getting out of that contract right now. but I think it was Darren, possibly during a team meeting recently, that said like 71% of unrepresented buyers have issues, have problems. Or I forget the wording on that. Does anybody remember that?
I think they said lawsuits. I think they said, didn't they say lawsuits?
Yeah, it was lawsuits. It was like you're right. It was like 70 to 75% of real estate related lawsuits involved either for sale by owners or transactions without professional representation.
Thank you, Tim.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, I get it. If you want to try to save some, 3-6%, but yeah, if you're gonna get into trouble, it's just not worth it to not be represented and have all your I's dotted and T's crossed, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
it really is. I love that from, it was probably like Sean Kokoska's scripts and dialogues was, when they start talking about saving 3% or saving commission, like, okay, so what I hear you saying is you're more interested in your net proceeds, right? What I'm hearing, if you're interested in saving money, we're looking at maximizing what's going into your checking account. So it's really not about my commission percentage or what it looks like. The number that we care about is what are you going to net? What's your net proceeds? And I don't even remember now. I probably need to here's an opportunity for me to learn. I don't know what the current stat is, but it was like, if you're working with a real estate professional, those transactions typically net like 16 to 18% more than what FSBOs get. And I can't remember, that's probably not an accurate stat now. And I know the market is always in flux, so we need to be watching that. But what either the list price to sale price ratio or just what the net proceeds are when a real estate professional is involved. And the script around that, they had that one where it was like, if you buy something at a garage sale, do you expect to pay more or less than if you buy it at a retail store? People typically expect to pay more if they go to a retail store because there's a professional involved, there's a storefront, there's a warranty, there's a paper trail, versus me, buying a watch from the Rolex store, from the jewelry store, I'm going to pay more than buying it from some guy in a parking lot out of his trunk. I might save some money, but is there authenticity there? Is there a paper trail? Am I trusting the product? Did I actually save money or did I buy an imposter? And if I'm working when there's a real estate professional involved, people are prepared to pay more because they're expecting that level of service and the track record, the safety, the liability, all of those things. So I like that.
That's a great way to reframe the conversation, Tim. That's great.
Yeah, it is good.
Isn't there a part in that script where they're saying about if we were to get a whole bunch of qualified buyers looking for that specific watch, put them in a room and then start auctioning that watch off versus selling it at a jewelry store or selling it at a garage sale or something like that, like kind of isolating where we're getting a bunch of buyers that are watch collectors in a room wanting to buy that watch. It'll go for significantly more than if it just sits at a garage sale or something like that. I can't remember that part of the script. I thought that was pretty cool too, where we're getting all the people that are specifically looking for your house that are going to be getting emails and working with agents. It kind of helps boost that price up. Word of that.
Yeah, that's spot on, Jake. That's exactly right.
Yeah, I forgot the exact wording on that script. Is that a bold script or an Ignite script?
Yeah, it's for sure in bold. I bet it's in Ignite also.
Reusing the same material. Come on, Keller Williams.
Hey, if it's a winning one, they run on it. Why not? Don't fix what's not broke.
But what else do you guys have? I didn't have a ton. I feel like we talk about like the same 7 things all the time. What else did you guys have?
I've got some young buyers that I got into a house, and I've talked to Tim about this yesterday. But I got some young buyers that got into a house, and seller's disclosure doesn't say anything about them knowing what kind of wiring's in there. Turns out it's all aluminum wiring. Well, that scares them to death, and now we're going to probably back out the contract today because of that. Seller does not want to pay the 10 to 15 grand it's going to take to rewire. in order to help us out with that. So, and they're FHA, which may not factor into it either, but they're just terrified of this aluminum wiring arcing and maybe having a fire. The problem is we don't find that out until my clients are paying for an inspection that we're going to just walk away from. So they paid out roughly $700 yesterday, and we're going to cancel contract today. So I don't know. Does anybody take like I'm not taking a wrench or anything with me to take the box off to look and see what the wiring is. I don't know if I'm required to do that. I mean, that's the first time I run into having a fully aluminum, to be sitting there with Ron Alabal and have him take a plate off and go, oh no. And then we go all the way to the box and he's like, oh no, this is all aluminum. So, but seller apparently didn't know, although she's owned it for 5 years. She's apparently haven't checked it every year like they suggest you do. So, I don't know. Is there a different way to deal with that? I guess I don't know.
I just think that's why we do inspections, right? I'm definitely not going to take a wrench and pull off the box every showing I do, or every time, a buyer's interested. I think that's just part of the process and the risk of buying a house, even though it does stink for your buyers. They're out $700, but they are probably saving themselves in the long run.
Yeah,
and that's how I framed it, or that's how we talked about it. And Grandma and Grandpa were standing there too, and so that's what I said was you just paid that amount of money to make sure you don't have a house fire 2 years from now, so or potential issue. So
even if you opened it, I don't think you would want to be responsible for advising on it anyway.
I am not an electrician.
I try to leave it totally, this is you and an inspector, that I wasn't a part of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw Lonnie's comment pop in there, and I was going to jump in on this since we talked about it so much yesterday, Tony. But what Trisha just said is number one, the inspections. I always preface like, hey, we spent 40 minutes, an hour, maybe an hour and a half checking out this property, and then we went under contract. We didn't crawl around the outside and look for cracks in the foundation. We're not going through the attic looking for mold or insulation breakdown, and we're not tearing the walls apart to see what type of plumbing materials were used, and that's what the inspection period is for. So there is a slight amount of risk. We scour the disclosures. I'm going to chalk Tony's up to they really just probably didn't know what type of wiring it was. Most people that aren't electricians wouldn't. If you told me like, does this house have, if I'm just walking through a house, I can't tell you if it has PVC or cast iron, or I don't know what type of drain piping's in the walls until I get down to the basement and maybe see it, but sometimes the basement's finished and it's tough, right? So in this case, I'm definitely going to advise Tony, don't take the electrical cover off of anything. Don't take the panel cover off. Even if you did, 95% of real estate agents, they're not going to know what they're looking at anyway, because that's not their area of expertise. So I don't think that Tony could have done anything different here. They scoured the disclosures and the person didn't know. It's just like when the roof, people put how old is the roof? Unknown. But you don't know, like you've lived in the house for 5 years. Did you put a new roof on in the last 5 years? No. So it's at least older than that, right? In this case though, what happens with the aluminum wire, in case you guys haven't ran into this yet, is there anything inherently wrong with the aluminum wire? Is the aluminum wire a safety hazard? The answer is no. What the problem is that aluminum expands and contracts at a much faster rate than copper wiring does. An expansion and contraction of the electrical conductors is what causes loose connections. So aluminum was designed because it's so much cheaper than copper in high current applications. So service entrance cables, the cable that goes between your meter and electrical panel, those are almost always aluminum in Kansas City because they're big wire and the electricians can crank down the lugs that secure it to the meter can and to the panel. And you don't really have to worry about loose connections there because the wire's so big, they can really torque those lugs down. When it's on a receptacle or a switch, you've just got a screw. The guy's using a screwdriver to tighten those down, and it's a very little area of surface contact. After a year or so of turning lights on, turning them off, plugging in your vacuum, unplugging it, that wire has expanded and contracted enough that it's led to a loose connection. And the loose connection then causes heat buildup, which can contribute to arcing, sparking, and possibly the potential for an electrical fire. It was designed to be in high maintenance applications. So one of the first major projects that they used aluminum wiring was down at Disney World, where they've got a fleet of electricians going around tweaking and maintaining stuff all the time. Well, most homeowners aren't maintaining their electrical systems at all. They wait until something quits working, and then they call an electrician out and go, this outlet quit working. Well, in the aluminum application, if nobody's doing any maintenance, the first time you're going to know something is when something burns up. That's the first time you find out about it. You smell that electrical fire smell. It's not really a fire, but you smell that electrical burn. So what's happening is insurance companies now are saying we can't even write it. If you call Matt Davidson, State Farm won't even write a policy on a house that has aluminum branch circuitry in it. Aluminum feeders, yes. Aluminum branch circuitry, no. So I told Tony yesterday, like, hey, the first call, or 2 days ago, whenever, the first call an insurance company. Don't just have them quote the house, let them know that it has aluminum branch circuitry, because a lot of them have what's called a high risk policy that they can still write it, but you're going to pay a higher premium for it. And if they won't write it, you want to know that during the inspection period, because that's your due diligence period to find out, is the house insurable? Are there any exclusions? Are there any excessive premiums to cover it? So the insurance company can't rely on a homeowner to do an annual maintenance on their electrical service. They are going to charge you a high premium for it. So a house that has aluminum branch circuitry in Kansas City is almost, you're going to have to rewire it, almost, unless you find an insurance company that can do a high risk policy. I know that Country Financial was the one who wrote the last one that I saw. But I'm seeing a lot of Tony's situation on the aluminum branch circuitry. People are just walking away because I can't afford it, especially on a $200,000 or less house. If my payment's $1,800 with the quoted policy amount that my lender gave, you know how the lenders give you an estimated payment based on what the taxes and insurance is going to be? They're using their standard insurance rates that they're seeing out there. Well, if you have to get a high risk policy, like an aluminum branch circuitry house is going to have, that $1,800 house payment is now a $2,300 or $2,400 a month house payment. And at that rate, most of those buyers are out. They were really pushing it to the max anyway. And now to run over by $300 a month just puts the deal out anyway. So I don't know. I may have made that more complicated than I needed to, but it's good information for us as agents to have when we're walking into these situations, so we can explain to our buyers when they do run into that.
So Tim, like Jake's question there, is there a specific time period when they did these homes with aluminum as opposed to copper? Are they very old? Are they new? Or what's the norm?
You know, they did it a lot about 30 years ago, and they did it a little bit about 50 years ago. And I think what you're going to find is it's different municipalities. Like City of Leawood, you're never going to find it in there because they've always required copper. City of Independence, in 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they were allowing it for about a 5-year time window until they started seeing a bunch of serviceability issues, and then they banned that idea in Independence. So kind of depends on the territory you're in, but really, Joanna, the zone is going to be in that 30 to 50 year range.
Huh, okay.
This is a 50-year-old house in Gladstone, North Kansas City.
Okay.
And we even checked with the previous owner's insurance company. It's Nationwide. Nationwide's not taking any new clients right now. So, you know, and this is a couple that's not going to be able to afford a $2,300 a month house payment. So we're probably away from it today, unless the seller, because the seller's going to have to put it out there now that now they do know it's aluminum, and they're going to have to change their seller disclosure if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so now people are going to see that aluminum and probably not want to go into the house or make an offer on the house. So
yeah, and it's a bummer because the reality is for that seller, I mean, 99% of the time they're gonna have to replace the wiring, or they're going to have to discount their price so significantly that an investor or somebody that has the ability to go in and replace it after the fact can do so. Either way, they're taking the hit on it, right? That expense is coming from the sellers. Unfortunately for Tony, first time buyers, they typically don't have an extra 10K or 12 or whatever, because there's also going to be some ancillary damage. So it's not just the electrician coming in and replacing the wires. In this instance, the house has an unfinished basement underneath a large portion of the house, so the electricians could fish wiring up from the unfinished basement. But if it's a story and a half or a 2-story, how you get into all the wiring in the second floor? You're cutting sheetrock. So not only do you have electrical expense, you also got to get a sheetrocker in there to do some repair work, and then you've got mud and tape and finish and paint. Like sometimes it's like, well, we've only got 4 outlets in this room. Yep, I know. And the electrician's going to have a $2,500 bill, and then the sheetrocker is going to charge you $1,000, and then you got to have the finisher in there, and that's $5. The cost doubles what the electrician bill is a lot real quick, or at least a 40 to 50% on top of that to cover ancillary damages. And that's if you don't have to get into a ceiling. If you have to get into a ceiling, oftentimes now you're spraying texture or doing knockdown to get it to match, or, it really, a little molehill can turn into a mountain real quick on that. And it's a bummer, but Tony's people spent $700, probably the best $700 they've spent on this whole process, or going to, because it could have saved them. It could ultimately, and I'm definitely using this from an electrician perspective, that $700 could have saved someone's life, right? I mean, because most people, especially first-time buyers, they're not getting on an annual maintenance program with their electrical system. And those are the people that are going to, end up eating it the most, is the ones that can't afford to do an annual maintenance program. And the bummer, that it's unfortunate in the electrical industry, but what was the cost savings of doing branch circuitry in aluminum over copper? Maybe $500, $1,000 over that house, because that house wasn't that big. It just wasn't a significant cost savings when they built it, but now it's tens of thousands of dollars to repair it and correct it.
Wow. Terrible.
That's great information, by the way. I think I learned more about electrical in the last 15 minutes than I've known in my life. So that's,
sorry.
I think
That's-
it's
that's great
good.
info, Tim.
it's awesome.
What sucks is I've learned it with a price. So
Yes. Tony, I'll try the approach to take the high road and go, just say, hey, this is likely going to kill the deal for my people. And my guess is this is going to be a problem you're going to run into with somebody else. If you guys want to make this right for us and go ahead and do business with the people right here in front of you, then, we may look at how we can keep this together. It might even be, and you say it's $10,000 to correct it. It might be one of those things your people are willing to pay a couple grand more. I don't know that. That's obviously your call, sure. But they've already spent $700, right? And they'll have to inspect again on another house. So maybe just take a little partial piece of that on them. And anyway, so there might still be a path there, but the agent, it may feel like, I can sell it again without having to do that work. I would agree with Tim. I think they're probably going to chew the same ground with the next person.
Yeah, I already started floating that boat last night, and he was starting to choke on it already. So, so we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, I know it's 11. I wanted to add 2 things real quick. Sorry, guys. But I wanted you to just think about these 2 things. We're going to cover this at team meeting next time in more detail. Price changes, because of the market being more traditional, we're seeing more and more price changes. Totally cool. Keep this in mind. Most of the professionals will tell you a price change of less than 5%. They always recommend 5%. Doesn't make a huge impact. So you're not opening yourself to a whole new level of buyers. To me, at 3% is kind of the floor. If you're not changing by around 3%, it almost serves no purpose unless it's just leading you to multiple price changes to get to the end goal. Whereas then I can go 10, 10, 10, 10 on a $350,000, $400,000 house and get there. The one exception to this is if you have a property priced at like 405 and all of a sudden you take it down to 399, you just broke into a new category. So a big whole number you crossed into, then a small price change can move the needle in those cases. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing I'm going to talk about in detail, because I've heard it 50 times in the last 60 days, is, well, I've got 10 showings on my house and only one person said we were overpriced. Do not rely on the feedback from agents showing your house to guide you on pricing. Most of them really don't know. And even if their gut feeling is you're too high, if their people aren't buying it, they could care less. They just are going to take the high road and say virtually nothing, or it seems okay. So your seller says, oh, well, we're priced okay. These feedbacks tell you that. Go ahead and discredit the feedback process when you take the listing. Otherwise, you're up against that over and over again. And I've already had multiple people tell me about their listings, and 12 of the showings, and only 2 of them said we were overpriced. No one's buying it. And you've had a crap ton of traffic. It's probably overpriced or not presenting itself right. That's all I got.
Okay, very good. Thank you, you guys. It was great.
See you guys. Everybody have a great day.
Help us
see you
pack
guys.
the truck. Help us pack the truck today at 5 if you can make it.
Brandy.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you.